Don't ask what possessed me to do this, because I don't even know anymore. Let's just say, at least once in my life, I have to do something as ridiculous as this. I actually thought this would be really quick and easy, but I was wrong. Welp, I think it was my own fault for why things took ages. A lot of it had to do with how I didn't have a composition in mind. So I spent a good while trying to figure something out. I didn't have a direction, so the next time I do something like this, I should already have an idea in mind so I'm not wasting time. With something like this, I could draw anything just as long as I keep the filter on. As you guys can see here, the filter is on and that is exactly what I'm seeing. I was getting pretty tripped up with this mode and it was hard for me to adjust. I'm aware that in reality, I made the background black and I'm sketching in white, but it was the only way to make things easier on myself. I swear I'd switch things to be proper. I should talk more about the picture I am drawing. I feel like this is different than any of my normal pictures in the sense that it's looking more like a scene, if that makes sense. A lot of my drawings are just pretty pictures and that's it. This one somewhat tells a story, I guess. I've mentioned having so many muses and a lot of them I never draw. At first, I could have drawn just my usual muses but decided against it. So I pulled out this muse who is even more underutilized than any of the ones I've done for drawing muses I don't normally draw. So his name is Seraphin Kalis and I created him for something else. Never did much with him because he was locked into the universe he was made in. That specific universe allowed for things that a realistic setting wouldn't allow. I normally keep my muses in the realistic settings, so yeah. But Seraphin, or Sarah as I like to call him, is super interesting lore-wise. Like, he had so much potential. In the universe he was created for, he was one of the princes in a royal family. The kingdom was located in the sky and it was very much cloud steampunk vibes, which I think was super cool. And before anyone asks, I didn't exactly create this universe. It was an RP made by one of my other friends and I kind of just came along for the ride. But yeah, I contributed a muse to the royal family and let's just say there was a bit of tension in RP. To the point where the princes and princesses had to wear masks until they turned, I believe, 21. It's been a bit so I don't remember all of the details. It was for their own protection, of course. Who knows what people would do. What made the royal family special was that they had wings, but with those wings came status and the sense of perfection. That's the general gist of the universe. As for Sarah himself, he was kind of pressured to keep the mask on and have this image since he's under 21. He wasn't as free as some of his other siblings. I don't remember if the king and queen in this were bad people or if they were just really strict, but yeah. Personality-wise, I'd say Sarah has two sides to him. The side he puts on for his family and the public is the one that's very stoic. He's really calm, quiet, and seems borderline emotionless. He always speaks with a flat tone and just seems very proper and respectable. Of course, that's not his true personality. That's where the other side comes in. I don't think it's represented too well in this picture, but his other side is where he's a lot more goofy and improper. He's still calm, but in a different sense. Like, he won't crack when things get stressful. He probably gets into a lot of trouble, and due to people having only seen him with his mask, they don't connect the dots that this absolute menace to society is one of the princes. So yeah, that's a bit about Sarah. The concept of him having both a literal and metaphorical mask is super interesting for writing, so I really should adapt him to be able to exist in other places. I wanted to do character development and have a dramatic reveal, and maybe the people who he befriended as just himself feeling betrayed that Sarah deceived him like that, but we all got a bit too busy to RP, and things kind of died. Well, that's life for you. And like I've said in one of my other videos, yeah, even my own life has gotten pretty busy, so I can't do that anymore. It's okay though. Life kinda just goes on. I think I've done enough lore dumping, so it's finally time to talk about the art. So I was thinking of just having Sarah in a vulnerable position and he's cornered in a tower. Then there is this group of people who want to kill him for whatever reason. Now, that is unrelated to anything that happened in that RP. I just wanted to draw something a bit angstier. Of course, I drew Sarah without his mask, even though more than likely he would have kept it on for this moment. I'd say this is more complicated than any other piece I've drawn because of the pose and also trying to establish the scene. I didn't want to blur out the background for this one, so it meant I had to draw the background properly. That added a lot more time to this. This took me 4.5 hours to do, and sure, There were moments where I got distracted, but for reference, I usually take 2 to 3 hours on my pieces, give or take. Maybe it gets pushed back to 3.5 hours if things are extra complicated. Obviously, I've drawn for much longer in a row before, like for my comic videos, but this is just an illustration which is usually a lot faster for me. I think the fact that I was drawing with the inverted color filter also slowed me down a lot because I desperately wanted this to look good. So you'll see me spend a while flipping through my swatches and even trying to invert random swatches to double check the colors. Yeah, that's my secret for surviving this challenge. Using my swatches and then double checking because I know my swatches would never fail me. But my eyes might just make me see things and I overthink all over again. So because of the inverted color filter, flat colors were super painful. It wasn't like I was winging Sarah's color palette. I already knew which colors I needed, but finding the right ones was what was difficult. Now obviously, his design in this picture I was winging, but that's not the point. His skin tone and hair color, I knew what I wanted. I had a general idea of how I wanted the outfit to look. I was thinking dark colors with lighter accents. Of course, since the colors are inverted, that made things harder. I didn't know which things would look right, and especially on that weird top shawl coat thing. I was struggling. It looked plain, so I wanted to come up with a design, but only specific colors would look good, so that was a nightmare. That was one of those moments where I had to invert the colors and try to at least figure something out, but I came up with something at least. Shading this was pretty bad considering that I had to remember with the inverted color filter, things are going to act the opposite of the way they usually do. Even then, shading didn't take too long since I usually just use one muted purple swatch for all of my shading. Near the end, I remembered that I actually named my colors, so I just relied on those names to help me through things. So yeah, I did manage to survive and that's what matters. I will say that shading the gold and the gem was slightly painful because they didn't use the same purple swatch. Whenever I shade metal or gems, I usually use different swatches for that. But I managed to figure things out in the end. Shading the clothes was tedious though, especially shading Sarah's wings. I wanted to just leave things unshaded after having worked for so long, but I pushed through. It'd be a pretty bad video if I just gave up on the drawing anyway. So let's be glad I didn't do that. Out of everything in this process, I'd say rendering was the thing I was the most uncertain about. I can get away with checking my swatches, and then also I shaded with one color on a multiply layer. However, with rendering, I actually need to be able to see the proper colors because it shows me which final gradient to use at the end. The gradient I use pretty much determines what vibes the drawing gives. Also, having to do lighting effects was a nightmare because I couldn't tell if I was doing too much or too little of something, so yeah. But at that point, I was trying to do something and hoping that things would turn out okay. I mean, surely, it couldn't be that hard if I was using my swatches I already had, right? The only thing I'd have to do is figure out where those swatches I needed were. Of course, eventually I finished the drawing and I could put the thing to rest. Okay, so we're gonna do a live reaction of me turning off the invert filter because I think that's more fun for everyone, alright? So let me just pop over to settings real quick. And I'm kind of nervous for this, but here goes nothing. Let's see if I actually did well. Oh my god. Well, I think I did okay. Yeah, I think I did generally okay. Huh. Alright, here's a better look at the picture now. This is not my best work, but I guess for doing the inverted color challenge, it ended up turning out okay. Anyways, thank you so much for watching my video. If you want to see more from me, hit the like and subscribe button. I hope to see you guys in the next video.